Good morning. It is August 23rd, 2022. Not really sure why I feel compelled to make this video, but I am taking a little walk break in our little courtyard and path area at work. You might hear some cars. I'm on a fairly busy street, but just thinking about the way of the world at this point, society, politics. I've become very interested in current issues in politics over the last 2 years, really, ever since COVID hit and our reaction to COVID. I'm a 40-something-year-old mother, obviously white, suburban, college educated. I have 2 children. I was a Democrat my entire life until 2020, actually. That's when I walked away. I didn't really like the response to COVID. I also did not like the response to George Floyd's tragic passing, with all the violence and the riots, and this being condoned by so many people that were at that point on my side. I don't know. Again, as a white suburban college educated mother, I would more likely be on the side of the left if you were trying to look at all of the little intersectionalities. I was also raised by a single mom. I was a single mom for a number of years to my older son. Again, there are lots of reasons you might would think that I would be more liberal, I guess. Anyways, I'm making this video just because over the last couple of years, I've noticed, as many people have, you don't really have to be a genius to notice how divisive this country has become, and really it's across all of Western society. But I've also noticed how the American dream specifically is getting turned to rubbish and actually being degraded. And again, as someone who grew up without a dad, my mom received government assistance. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. You know, I did not have an easy upbringing at all. Went to school wearing the same outfit probably 3 days each school week. My toes poking out of my shoes, because my mom just couldn't afford to buy us new shoes, really. And I think about where I am now, the first person in my family to have graduated from college. I have a good job. I have a husband with a good job. We have a nice house. We live in a great area. My children are able to go to good schools. And, you know, I might not be a rags to riches story or anything like that, but if you think of the American dream as just each generation being able to have a better life than the generation before, I did accomplish that, for sure. My mom now lives with us. You know, we were able to buy a home that would accommodate her. And, you know, that to me is what the American dream is about. It's about each generation doing a little bit better, being able to pursue happiness, trying to overcome obstacles that they might be confronted with based on where they come from socioeconomically, and then being able to give back, being able to help my mom, being able to donate to charities, tithe at church, those types of things. It's being able to provide a good life for yourself, provide a good life for your children, and give back to those around you who might not be able to do for themselves. And this whole idea of, socialism that seems to be overtaking our country, and it's been doing so for at least the last half century, and I wasn't even aware of it. Maybe the past 100 years, since the Great New Deal. But I really don't want government taking all of my money and then ineffectively and inefficiently spreading the wealth where they see fit. Like, I see how they do horribly right now with our welfare system, and having been a product of like food stamps and things like that, I don't think that it's really the best system already, and there are lots of criteria that they should be looking into as far as who is able to receive government assistance for how long. Like, there really needs to be some restrictions, because people shouldn't be able to just sit around and not do anything. And there's disability, which I understand in that instance you're receiving government assistance because you're unable to work to whatever capacity. But we need to work on our current social program before we start expanding it further and further. I mean, even this universal pre-K. I have a son who is in pre-K, and I think of all the moms. I know quite a few who are able to not work because their husbands have gotten good enough jobs, or they've made financial sacrifices in order for the mom to stay at home. Like, how does universal pre-K necessarily help those women? Or like, I know in our school district there already is a program for pre-K, but it has income restrictions, and I understand that, and I think that's good for working parents who maybe don't have a lot of money, that they can qualify to get assistance and get their children in pre-K. But I don't necessarily feel the best about my child going to a government pre-K, because I'm already worried about our public schools. And again, I'm in a good school district. It just seems like the more power we give to the government and the more stuff that they run, the worse product we get. So why do we keep trying to give them more and more power? And like, this federal government that we have right now, and the expansion of the IRS, when we already have millions of federal employees right now that don't seem to be doing what they need to be doing. Why are we going to hire more people to not do what they're supposed to do and spend billions more dollars hiring people who, again, are not effective or efficient? And there's no oversight with the government. Like, we don't even know exactly what was bought with the billions that we've sent to Ukraine. Like, there's no oversight at all. I don't understand. Like, my personal budget, I have to review it. I have to make sure that I have this much money before I spend this much money. I work for a business, same thing. And it's really weird that our government is able to run in a way that they can spend limitless amounts of money with no real detailing as to how the money is going to be spent. We don't necessarily see the benefits from this money that's being spent, and we are all getting poorer every time they spend this money. I mean, we're getting taxed like crazy, and Biden's about to raise our taxes again with this Inflation Reduction Act. So I don't really know how taking more of my money up front is going to help my monthly budget sheet or balance sheet, my personal one at home. But I'm just like, how do we continue to do the same things over and over? Never really see the benefits, constantly see the repercussions, and people just go along with it. And I just really felt like we were going in such a good direction back in 2019. And even though I was definitely a full-fledged Democrat at that point, and I was one of the never Trumpers, I was at least open-minded enough to recognize that I was in a good place. I was in a better place. I remember getting my taxes lowered in 2017 after Trump signed the tax cut, and I didn't want to say he did anything good, but I knew it in my head that it was good. But I would really just like to go back to 2019. It's crazy that I recognize such a stark difference between now and then. And over the past couple of years, I've come to recognize and appreciate everything great that Donald Trump did. Like I said, even though I would have never wanted to admit it before, he did a really great job, and now I find myself to be one of the America First Republicans, I guess. I'm more conservative than I used to be. I'm definitely leaning more that way, but I really am more of a MAGA person, I guess. And it's really just crazy that I even say that, but he did so much good for this country, and I guess that's really why I wanted to post this video. Is like, here we are in 2022 coming up on midterm elections, and I just really hope that people will look at where they are now versus where they were in 2019 and recognize, like, things were better. Things were much better. And if COVID hadn't hit and we hadn't done all of these crazy things based on with the bureaucratic healthcare people like Fauci, if we hadn't kind of followed their lead in 2020, we would have all been so much better off. And so much noise in the background, I'm so sorry. But if things would have just kept going how they were from 2019 without COVID, we would have had a normal 2020 election season, normal campaigning, rallies, all the laws hadn't been changed right in time for the election. Mail-in ballots wouldn't have been allowed to be counted for weeks on end. We probably would have had a very different outcome to the 2020 election. So there were so many things. It was like the perfect storm that I think worked against the Republicans in the 2020 presidential election. But that's obviously the past. But I just want everyone to think about where we would have been if COVID hadn't hit, and if we would have continued with Trump policies. Think about Afghanistan in August 2021. Think about the Russian-Ukraine war. The 2 quarters of economic downturn that is not a recession. But it's definitely something that's concerning. The inflation, gas prices, just where would we be if 2020 hadn't turned into the crazy fest that it did? And we have the opportunity to change things up. We have so many great candidates all across this country, people who might be a little more polished than Donald Trump, but have similar agendas and policies to Donald Trump. And I think that whether it's a House seat, a Senate seat, a governor's seat, we all really need to think hard about who we are voting for, do our research, and get your butt out there and actually vote. Don't be lazy and don't be ignorant. Get out there and vote, because it really does matter. If you disagree with me, your vote can cancel my vote. If you agree with me, we can add our votes together. It really does make a difference. Vote this midterm. 2022 really does matter. Thanks.